The Achaemenid Postal System, the ancient world's first mail network. Imagine a king sitting in Persia sipping wine when suddenly he thinks, I need my general in Egypt to attack tomorrow morning. But there's a problem. Egypt is 2,000 kilometers away. No WhatsApp, no email, not even smoke signals could cover that distance. How do you send a message before it becomes old news? This was the daily headache of the Persian kings 2,500 years ago. Their empire was huge, like the United States, Europe, and a big chunk of Asia, all smashed together. Ruling such a giant place without fast communication was like trying to play chess blindfolded while your opponent can see the whole board. The Persians came up with a genius solution, the world's first real postal system. They called it the Chapar Khaneh. Fancy name, but think of it like the FedEx or DHL of the ancient world, except the couriers didn't just walk, they rode horses at full speed day and night across deserts, mountains and rivers. And the best part, even the Greeks, who hated the Persians, admitted, wow, these guys deliver mail faster than anything we've ever seen. That's how legendary it was. If you love digging into these surprising stories of history, make sure to subscribe. We've got plenty more gems to uncover. Before we jump into horses racing across Persia, let's pause and see what the world looked like back then. It's around 500 BCE. The Achaemenid Persian Empire is the biggest empire the world has ever seen up to that point. Imagine a giant pizza that stretches from Greece on one side to India on the other. This pizza has many slices, different lands, cultures and languages, but only one boss, the Persian king. Cyrus the Great started this empire, but his successor, Darius the Great, is the one who turned it into a super-organized machine. Darius wasn't just a fighter, he was a planner. He divided the empire into satrapies, which are basically like giant provinces or states. Each province had its own governor called a satrap. Sounds neat, right? But here's the problem. What if a satrap got greedy and decided, maybe I should be king instead? To stop that, Darius needed one thing above all: communication. Orders had to fly faster than rebellions. Tax reports had to reach the capital before they could be lost in some satrap's pocket. Soldiers had to be moved before enemies attacked. Without quick messages, the empire could collapse like a Jenga tower. Here's a simple analogy. Imagine a school with 50 classrooms, but only one principal. If the principal can't send instructions quickly, like stop the food fight in class 12D, chaos breaks out. Darius understood this problem on a giant scale. That's why he created the Chapar Khaneh, a network of courier houses, fresh horses and fast riders. This was the empire's nervous system, keeping everything connected. Without it, the Persian Empire might have been just a short-lived experiment. With it, Persia became a superpower. Let's imagine the Persian Empire as a giant group chat. You've got Greeks in one corner, Egyptians in another, Persians in the middle, and everyone is constantly texting in different languages. Now imagine the king is the admin of this group. Without control, the chat blows up with spam, rebellion, memes, and fake news. Darius the Great saw this danger. He wanted his empire to feel connected, not scattered, and for that, he needed a way to send royal orders faster than rumors could spread. This is where the Royal Road came in. It stretched about 2,700 kilometers, from Sardis in modern Turkey all the way to Susa, the Persian capital. According to the BBC, the Persians didn't invent this road from scratch, but Darius repaired, improved, and expanded it until it became the backbone of the empire. Along it, they placed Chapar Khaneh courier stations. Think of them as ancient post offices mixed with pit stops for horses. Herodotus, the Greek historian, who usually trashed Persia, actually praised this system. He said messages could travel across the empire in just a week. To put that in perspective, it would normally take a traveler 3 months to cover the same distance on foot. That's like upgrading from dial-up internet to fiber optic overnight. Picture this. You're a royal courier riding like the wind, dust flying behind you. You reach a Chapar Khaneh station after 25 miles. Your horse is tired, sweaty, and ready to collapse. Do you rest? Nope. You jump off, hand the message to another rider who's waiting with a fresh horse, and boom, off he goes, galloping to the next station. It's like a relay race, but the baton is the king's orders, and dropping it might cost you your life. The Wikipedia entry explains that these stations were spaced so that messages could keep moving non-stop. Fresh horses, food and shelter were always available. The couriers didn't stop even at night. This is why Herodotus wrote his famous line, "Neither snow nor rain nor heat nor darkness of night prevents these couriers from completing their appointed course. Sound familiar? Yep. This line inspired the motto of the modern United States Postal Service. So imagine 2,500 years ago, Persians basically invented the idea that the mail must go through. But the postal system wasn't just about convenience, it was about control. The BBC explains that the Chapar Khaneh was a constant reminder of royal power. If a governor thought about rebelling, he had to remember. The king would find out quickly, and the king's army would arrive just as fast. It was like having CCTV cameras connected to the king's palace, except with horses. The couriers carried military orders, tax demands, intelligence reports, and sometimes even petitions from ordinary people. The system became the empire's nervous system, and just like your body reacts quickly when you touch something hot, the Persian Empire could react quickly to problems because of this network. Let's zoom in. What did a Chapar Khaneh actually look like? According to Wikipedia, each station was basically a small compound with stables for horses, rooms for resting riders, and supplies of food and water. You could think of it as a mix between a gas station, a motel, and a military checkpoint. The couriers were trained to ride hard and fast. They weren't delivering love letters or Amazon packages. They carried heavy news, tax orders, troop commands, intelligence about rebellions. The riders weren't casual employees either. They were part of the king's trusted system. Losing a message could cost them everything. The BBC article describes how impressive this looked to outsiders. To see riders dashing down the road, switching horses like clockwork and disappearing into the horizon, it was like watching a Formula One pit stop in ancient times. Quick, smooth, and efficient. The royal road itself made this all possible. By keeping it well maintained with bridges, markers, and cleared paths, the Persians turned geography into their ally. Crossing mountains, rivers, and deserts became possible in record time. This was essential for keeping the empire stitched together. But here's the interesting bit. While the system was built for official royal use, it indirectly helped ordinary people too. Merchants, travelers, and pilgrims found the roads safer. Bandits avoided areas heavily patrolled for the king's couriers, and because there were stations along the way, long journeys became less risky. Even though you couldn't just send Grandma's birthday letter through the Chapar Khaneh, the system still made life better for everyday folks. In a way, it was like how GPS was first designed for the military, but later helped everyone find the nearest pizza place. What's fascinating is that even Persia's enemies were impressed. Herodotus, the Greek historian, had plenty of reasons to dislike the Persian Empire, but when he wrote about the Chapar Khaneh, he couldn't help but admire it. He declared that nothing mortal travelled faster than these couriers. That kind of praise from an enemy says a lot, and the system's influence didn't stop with Persia. Later empires borrowed the idea. The Romans built their cursus publicus, which was essentially a copycat version, relay stations, fresh horses, non-stop couriers. The Byzantines and Islamic caliphates would also adopt similar systems. Even the Mongols, with their famous Yam network, echoed the same principle. Communication is power. The BBC reminds us that the Persian postal system was, in many ways, the first courier service in the world. It set the model for how large states could stay connected across vast distances. It was proof that an empire didn't just need soldiers and weapons, it needed messages that moved faster than chaos. And here's the fun twist. Herodotus's description of Persian couriers became so legendary that thousands of years later the United States Postal Service adopted it as its unofficial motto. Think about that. A Greek historian grumbling about Persians in 430 BCE accidentally gave America its postal slogan in the 20th century. That's one long delivery route. So, what's the big takeaway? The Persians didn't just invent a mail network, they invented the idea that information is power. Whoever controls communication controls the empire. In modern terms, it's like inventing the internet of the ancient world. So what happened after the Persian Empire? Did the Chapar Khaneh just vanish into thin air? Not exactly. When Alexander the Great defeated the Persians, he didn't throw away their system, he used it. Later, the Romans copied it and called it the cursus publicus. The Byzantines and the early Islamic caliphates kept the idea alive too. The Mongols built their own superfast courier network, the Yam, following the same playbook. In other words, Persia's postal system became the blueprint for every big empire that came later. It showed the world that if you want to control a giant territory, you don't just need soldiers, you need speed, roads, and communication. The BBC puts it simply, this was the first courier service in history. It was the secret sauce that made Persia so powerful, and it left fingerprints on every postal system that followed. The irony, most people today don't even know the first real mailmen were Persian horsemen riding through deserts 2,500 years ago. They weren't just delivering letters, they were holding an empire together. And that's the story of their Persian postal system, the Chapar Khaneh. What started as a few horses and stations turned into the empire's lifeline, the thing that kept millions of people under one crown. Herodotus couldn't stop talking about it, later empires copied it, and modern post offices still carry its spirit today. So next time your package is late, remember, 2,500 years ago, couriers on the royal road were outracing snowstorms, deserts and rebels to get the king's orders delivered. Suddenly, waiting 2 days for Amazon doesn't feel so bad. History isn't just about wars and kings. Sometimes it's about the little things like a letter racing across the desert that change everything. If you enjoyed this journey into the world's first postal system, hit subscribe and join us as we keep digging up the stories that shaped our world.